Tonight we are honoring the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was born 84 years ago today. This is Martin Luther King Boulevard, and this particular intersection has been plagued with something other than peace.
Happy birthday, Dr. King! Happy birthday, Dr. King! Happy birthday, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Welcome, friends. This is the Occupy the South Side Peace March and demonstration for peace in our community. I want to thank you all for coming out and joining us. We're going to march south here, down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, and to Emmett Till Boulevard, Emmett Till Road, which is 71st Street. And as we know, in this day, a great man was born, Martin Luther King, a man of peace, a man of love, a man of respect and dignity. And we find on this intersection here, not a lot of love, not a lot of peace, not a lot of respect, not a lot of dignity. And so this is where we decided to begin our march today. And we're going to march to 71st, which is Emmett Till Road. And we're going to take our march directly to the church. And as we're marching, we want to think about the peace in our own lives. We want to think about the peace in our own communities and what we can do. And one of the things that you'll see Marissa here is holding is called a peace pledge. And it says, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. And if we want a peaceful world, and if we want a peaceful community, and we want peace within our own selves, we have to know that it begins with us.
Well, I think it's not about the talk, it's about the walk. And as people see us walking and not hollering and shouting, but just standing peacefully, walking forward, walking together, walking as a community, they're going to see a difference. They're going to see a change. They're accustomed to people shouting and hollering and marching and demonstrating protests, but we want to take a different approach. We want a peace pledge. We want a pledge for peace. We want people to not just talk about it, but be about it and grow it within themselves. We talk about a song saying, let there be peace on earth, let it begin with me. And that's what this whole march is about. It's about peace. We also have a commemoration after this program dealing with Martin Luther King and his legacy and what we're doing about it today. We want to thank the faith community of St. Columbanus, Father Mike Notek, who has been, yes, we can be seated, relax. Father Mike has been just a wonderful ally in this effort for peace, and we have had some difficulties in this community, and Father Mike has been a voice of reason and of substance, and I'll ask him to open our activities here with a word of encouragement and prayer, and we'll begin the rest of the program.
Thank you, Jonathan. I am very feeling privileged and honored, very proud to welcome all of you, people from various faith traditions. You know, when I look out right now, I see all these different ethnicities, ways of life, ages. It's kind of a glimpse of what heaven's going to be like. Hopefully I'll see that someday. But we are about pulling heaven down to earth tonight. And in the silent march that we had from 63rd until here, we could feel that peace, the peace that has already been established, the peace that is sometimes threatened, but that nobody can take away from us. It is so important for us to be here today, so I welcome each and every one of you to this holy place tonight. Let us pray. Almighty God, we gather of people of many faith traditions in awe of your goodness. We come here with concerns. We come here with fear. We come here with anger. We come here with hope. We come here with joy. all these variety of emotions, dear God, are running through us as we face the challenge of bringing heaven down to earth, of reestablishing your peace where it has been threatened, and challenging injustice, in working together, united as people from many different walks of life, but together brothers and sisters in the cause for life, for freedom, for hope. Almighty God, we ask you to bless each and every one of us, all of our loved ones, everyone and every organization that we represent and that we belong to. We feel your peace. We feel your presence with us, and for that we give you thanks and praise. Send your Spirit upon us tonight, that everything we do brings us closer to you and the great work you call us to do. You are an awesome and wonderful God. You live and reign forever and ever, and let the church say,
Oh freedom, oh freedom, oh freedom. This is the things we talk about, the things we strive for is about freedom. Freedom of responsibility, freedom for justice, freedom for peace. Our brother Frank Chapman, who is with CPAC and the Alliance, took ill, so he won't be with us tonight. We really wanted to hear from him. Frank is one of the vanguard people in the struggle for peace and justice in this city, and we are sorry that he's not able to be with us tonight, but we'll keep him certainly in our thoughts as he recuperates. I'd like to bring up Brother Chris, who is one of the young occupiers, one of the young activists in the city of Chicago, and he's going to give a few reflections on where we are in this new generation.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. So I guess I'll talk about something a little different because I saw violence and loss of lives in the community, and I think that is a very important subject, but I feel like we should probably figure out where this comes from or figure out how to prevent this. And I feel that love is the only question worth answering. So in that we should preach patience. I was talking to a gentleman earlier, and he was talking about his son in Michigan and how they had alternative methods of talking to someone, because if you're having a conversation with someone yet they're not listening or they're not understanding, then maybe you should find a new method, because if they're not getting the message, then it's pointless. So these are things that we should look forward to. You know, we should look forward to community work, and we should look forward to loving one another. At the end of the day, all we have are each other. So in that, we should put more emphasis in our surroundings, in our surrounding communities. Born and raised on the south side of Chicago, I understand some of the troubles that plague us all, and it takes little steps to prevent these. Dr. King had a pretty awesome quote that I found a few minutes ago. He said, I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. So in that, I believe that he like I was, or I like him, I should say, am trying to put more energy into love than other things. So in that it does take patience and perseverance, and love isn't easy, but at the end of the day, it is all we have. We are all we have. So I guess my soapbox pretty much is love, essentially, and we should focus more on that. I think that should be our main focus, and hopefully we can get some positive energy going in our neighborhoods, and that can start a ripple effect. Thank you.
It's a little different speaking in a large crowd as opposed to just sitting around a circle at a GA, right? We're gonna, thank you so much, Chris, appreciate you. We're gonna move quickly to Brother Lee Allen Jones, great author of Our America, and he's gonna give us a few words on growing up in Chicago and the impact of youth violence.
Thank you. Good evening. I want to say thank you for the invitation to present a discussion today on the birthday of a man who fought for so much in our community and for our children and for the generations that are present today. Martin Luther King went against all rationale and reason in his day to fight for something that his eyes would never see, but his heart and his mind knew could conceptualize to what we live in today. However, when we look at the present state of affairs and that dream that Martin Luther King had, we have strayed so far away from what his vision was supposed to manifest within our community. Today, the nonviolence that he espoused is not only more vociferous than it was in his era, but it is brother on brother. The barbarity of the hate that exists in our community does not come from an external foe anymore. It comes from us. I would hope that on this birthday of the great man, Dr. Martin Luther King, that we begin to look at ourselves and our community no longer as being the harborer of violence and terror on each other. Today, on Martin Luther King's birthday, there were young people that got on public transportation and were disrespectful. And they didn't know that an entire movement was casted out of their inability to have freedom to ride on public transportation. We have to take back our community, and nobody else is going to do it. It is not a political problem. It is not a spiritual problem. It is a us problem. There have been many people that stood with Dr. King who have lasted into this generation and have saw this deterioration. Like I've told many people, I have a fear based on vision right now in our community because optimism is hard to come by. When you have a young lady who stabs her mother last week, when you have young people killing each other over resources that all of them are deprived and will continue to be deprived of. We have a community where young men who can aspire don't have the resources because of a fundamental lack of education. We have an educational system that only has 2% of African American men in the classroom. And the classrooms where they do have African men, we have over a 99% graduation rate. We have allowed our community to be a repository of political theory without social action. And what I would pledge here today amongst the people that are here, some may say this is a small group. I say it is a very large group because the people here have big hearts and a big understanding. St. Columbanus and the people that organized this march, we have to fight this fight every day. We have a tragedy of huge proportion every day in the African American community, and we have become common and simple in our response and our approach. If we are to manifest the dream of Martin Luther King, we have to begin to make change with the reality that we see every day. And that is our responsibility. That is our commitment. That is our pledge. And if we want to live in that dream, in the utopia that Dr. King spoke in, then we have to begin to fight. It is not about civil rights anymore. It is about a community's responsibility. And if we do not get back to a community's responsibility, we will continue to live in a tyranny, not at the hands of our forefathers and the oppression that they face, but our inaction as a community to begin to resolve the issues that are systemic. It is about hope. It is about belief. It is about having an economic platform that has the ability to foster small businesses, where people can pay taxes, where they can demand out of the educational system the resources to produce their children to be global citizens. We have to make that declaration. Nobody is going to come in and save us. We have to get out of the world of theoretical thinking and get our hands in the dirt with actual practice. There's a freedom school in this community now. There's a freedom school in this community now. And if the freedom school is to work, then it must do what? Convert people who have been enslaved by a mentality that says they can only have at the expense of others and not in the harmony of each other. I am running for the 2nd District of Congress as a member of the Green Party, but it's not political. It is about because I have a vision that comes out of the ashes of the destruction of the politics of this city. I want young people to have employment. I want them to have education, but they have to fight for it. They fight for all of the wrong things. You could have went to any school in the city of Chicago on any given day, and the kids are fighting each other. Why? You can go to City Hall and people are fighting, but why? You can go to the state capitol and people are fighting, but for what? You can go to Congress and they're fighting for what? When we don't have the productivity of any of their policies and the decent people are desperate. I want to thank you today today. I hope that we can have a more better discussion and extend the dream of Dr. King through the reality of our day. Thank you very much.
I want to introduce a young lady who was a former CPS student, is now a college student. She walked through the forest of the Chicago public school system, and now she's doing very well. And I'd like to introduce Miss Giovanna Hines. Is Giovanna here? Ah, there she is. Look at her. Look at her. All right.
Good evening, everyone. As he said, I am a former CPS student. I was privileged enough to be able to attend Lane Tech, which is on the north side of Chicago, but I grew up, was born and raised right off of 95th and State by the Dan Ryan, right by Project Complex, you know, and a lot of my friends went to Harlan, which is the community high school over there, and I've seen a lot of kids like come and go out of school. A friend of mine actually said that if she had to go to Harlan, then she wouldn't go to high school. Thankfully, she ended up changing her mind, but that just kind of gives you a perspective on Harlan. But I currently attend Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and a friend of mine who, he doesn't go to Temple, but he's from Philadelphia, born and raised in Philadelphia his whole life. He told me on describing his experience living in Philadelphia that Philadelphia is hostile, that everyone there is angry, and to be in Philadelphia, you can only exist, like you can't thrive. And when he told me that, I thought of Chicago as well, and that seems to also be a lingering form of existence here in Chicago. And if you think that the condition that we live in Chicago is an isolated condition, that's not true at all. It's happening all over the country, and I kind of came to the thought that there seems to be a binary of apathy versus violence. You either have people who are aware of what's going on, but they choose to not say anything. They choose to not do anything. They choose to just exist and hope that the next day is better. And then you have people who are sick of the system, sick of how they're living, sick of their conditions, but they don't know how to channel that aggression, and so they just act out in violence. So when people say that the violence of the youth, you know, is unwarranted, or it's unthinkable, or you can't understand why it's occurring, it upsets me because it's very obvious why it's occurring. And I feel like if you are in a position to uplift someone, then you should help them, because Dr. King, he spoke on nonviolence and peace, but he also spoke on the community, and he spoke on uplifting your brother, and he preached and he wrote, but he also walked in the streets. He also marched. He also talked to people who were in a condition that he was trying to uplift. So if you see someone in the street, because we all know that the people that need to be hearing this message aren't in this church right now, you know, they're somewhere else wondering when they're gonna get their next meal, or how they're gonna, you know, feed their family, or how they're gonna pay their bills. So rather than condemning people who aren't doing as well as you, we should be extending a hand to bring them up to us. And I see so many times people who just shake their heads, or people who just turn away, or people who just write off the youth, or the people who they call like scum. And I've heard it before, and it's just so sad, because how can we uplift ourselves as a people and really as a human race if we can't help someone who is in a worse position than us? And that's all Martin Luther King talked about. You know, he talked about helping one another, being compassionate, and to help the situation we in, we need compassion, and we need patience, and we need love. And that's something, those are several things actually that are very critical, but as Chris said, love is very important, and that's something that we should be carrying over to everyone. And before you judge someone, have empathy for their situation and try to see yourself as a viewer in that situation, you know? And it's easy to say that somebody is a lost cause, but you really don't know what they've gone through, and you really don't know what kind words or a bit of assistance can do to help their situation. And it's really a ripple effect. Helping someone else can lead them to helping someone else and can lead them to helping someone else. So you can't be afraid. You can't walk away. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to get out there and you have to talk to people who need your help, because you never know how it may affect someone else or change someone else's life. And if we want to see a better world, we have to start working with each other rather than just thinking about ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Giovanna. Thank you so much. It really is important to hear what the new generation is saying. I know we want to look backwards at the life of Dr. King and other luminaries, but it's really important to hear what our next generation is saying and how they see the world, because that's where we're heading. We're heading toward that future. You know, Giovanna speaks about upstanders and bystanders, and we have to make a choice. What are we going to be? Are we going to be a bystander and let things go as they are? That wasn't a rhetorical question. Are we going to be bystanders in our lives, or are we going to be upstanders? All right, tell me something. I might be in the wrong crowd here now, all right? Fantastic. Thank you, Giovanna. Thank you again. Alan Marshall is with the Opera Project, and he's going to give us a few reflections on civil rights then and now. So good to see you, brother. All right. Let's give him a round of applause. Good job. Good job. Good job.
I'd like to first start off by saying it's an honor to be here tonight to share in Dr. King's birthday. I want to give respect to the spiritual leader of this congregation, as well as to those who are involved with the organization that has brought this on, Occupy the South Side. My name is Alan Marshall, and I am the writer of The March, a civil rights opera, and it is an opera in production about the 1963 March on Washington. And on this day, when we have gathered as a community to unite against violence and to honor Dr. King, we must ask ourselves, how do we continue to transform his dream into a tangible reality? How do we vindicate his ultimate sacrifice on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel, August 4th, 1968? Ever since that sad day, men, women, boys, and girls across this country and around this world have found ways to make Dr. King's dream begin to come true. Some have gone into politics so that they can become the lawmakers who create laws that are just and fair. Others have gone into the law profession to make sure that those laws are obeyed and enforced. Still others have chosen education and social work, religious training to further Dr. King's dream. I have chosen art. I have chosen drama to make a way for King's dream to become a reality. Why art? Because art reminds us where we come from. Heroes may be born by their deeds, but they are immortalized in poetry and in art. Rosa Parks does not have the luxury of a national holiday, nor does Medgar Evers or Emmett Till or Septima Clark. Bayard Rustin, Ella Baker, Bob Moses, Fannie Lou Hamer, Diane Nash, John Lewis, and a whole host of others do not have a national holiday wherein we can remember who they are. So how do we know who they are? How do we recall who they are? We can do it through art, and we can do it through drama. The heroes of the Egyptians, the Babylonians, and the Greeks and the Romans were so immortalized that they are now a part of our everyday existence. We need only look at the names of some of the months of our calendar. July, named for Julius Caesar, August for Emperor Augustus, and October for Emperor Octavian. But we have inherited a band of heroes from the civil rights movement whose actions deserve to be remembered and honored so that we remember where we come from and plot a course for the future. Art also reminds us who we are. One of the causes of violence in our communities is because we don't often appreciate the value of our fellow human beings. Our sense of self-worth has been diminished. We have forgotten who we are, where we come from, and therefore what we are capable of. Art and drama have the capacity to remind us that we are heirs to a great legacy. Dr. King's legacy is one of nonviolence. His main weapon was love. We must celebrate that legacy in song, in film, in poetry, in theater, and yes, in opera. Finally, art reminds us how far we can go. Art and drama can open up a world of possibility, world-changing possibilities. There are several community organizers here tonight who would likely testify that change comes through action, and I would not disagree with you. But before there can be action, there must be inspiration. Inspiration springs forth from imagined possibilities. Such an imagination is only possible with a mind that is not locked in the present, but can wonder, dare I say, dream about the future. The power of art can unlock that imagination, unlock that sublime capacity to dream, where we can create a world of possibility on stage and in our writing and in our paintings that can become a blueprint for the better world in which we live. Finally, if we allow art to do all of these things, we can create homes filled with love and not domestic violence. We can live in neighborhoods without crime and murder. We can be proud of a city whose best resources and services are distributed to all and not just a select elite. We can build a world that would make Dr. King and all of us proud, and we can do that through art. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Al. Thank you so much for that. I was gratified to hear your work with the project, with the Opera Project, and the ideals that the project is bringing forward. I'd like to just make a quick change in the program before we get to our peace pledge. I saw Alderman Sawyer here in the audience and ask him would he just say a few words. He's been the alderman here of the 6th Ward and is a hard worker to make sure that there's peace and order in this community, and we'll just ask him to come up and say a couple of words to us tonight here. Let's welcome the brother. I know.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I was not expecting to speak. I was expecting to sit in the audience and listen to everyone today, but they always say never let a politician get access to the mic. Just briefly, as we sit here on the day of Dr. Martin Luther King's birth, we sit in the historic church that happens to be near the intersection of Emmett Till Road and Martin Luther King Drive. Two very important people in the civil rights movement. And as I reflect about Dr. King, and I hear a lot of speeches during the course of the day, and I've read a lot during the course of the day as you see people commemorating this day, I want to make sure that young people are aware of a couple of things. You know that Dr. Martin Luther King was a nonviolent man. That does not mean that he was a soft man. That does not mean that he was scared. It was just the opposite. This man gave his very life for us to do the things that we kind of take for granted to this day. We have to be aware that this was a man of enormous strength to be a part of what he was doing in such a time where it was more advantageous for him to toe the line, get along. He stood out amongst all of us at that time as a man of action. Just because he was nonviolent, young people, young brothers and sisters, does not mean that he was less than. Does not mean that he was incapable of being strong. He was more than strong. He was a man's man. He stood up for what he believed in spite of what others thought of him. So as we go forward, and as I listen to the young lady that in the audience briefly, we have to get out of our comfort zone. We have to do things that might make us a little nervous, because if we do not, we're going to continue to take what's been given to us. It's time for action. It's time for us to step up and reclaim our neighborhoods. Step up and reclaim our areas, our business strips, our educational institutions. It's far too important now. We have to remember what Dr. King died for. He died so that we can be free and speak the way that we need to speak, to apply truth to power, to challenge those that may consider us less than. Let's not make this day just a day of celebration. It's a day of action. It's a day of service. It's a day that we should stand up and say that we have overcome. I don't know about a lot of you. I was at a thing Sunday where, you know, the words were shall overcome. I don't say shall overcome. We have to have that mindset now. We have overcome. Now that we have to think about what we need to do from this point forward, we have to take this neighborhood, the city, our country back. We have to be strong. Let's do this for Dr. King's sake. Thank you.
All right, Alderman, watch that truth to power now. We might be coming to talk to you too. But thank you, Alderman. You're hard work in this community, and I know you're trying to do everything you can to make sure that things are right for this neighborhood and for this community. I'd like for us to really focus on our theme tonight. Is everyone enjoying themselves? Everybody having a good time? Come on, sexual time. That's good. I'm so glad for that. We do want to focus about what tonight is about, what today is about, and it's about peace, inner peace, and peace in our world. And as we say, we want that to begin with us. So I'm going to ask that we sing that song, and then we're going to have Marissa come up and close us out. Does everyone have their peace pledge with them? There should be a small card that Chewy handed out to you. Did Chewy do that? All right, very good. If everyone has their pledge cards, and Marissa Brown is going to lead us in this part of it. Marissa Brown, everybody knows Marissa. Let's give her a hand.
Good evening. So this is probably one of the few days that I really feel like celebrating. If you ask my kids, they tell you how I boycotted Christmas this last year. But on a day like today, you can't help but celebrate and rejoice. 84 years ago today, Dr. King was born. And because of his hard work and efforts, we're able to meet and mix and mingle today. As folks said earlier, the young folks today, and all of us, in fact, are very fortunate to be able to take advantage of the hard work that him and many, many other civil rights leaders did. Brother Alan Marshall said something that just really kind of shook me a little bit. How do we vindicate King's ultimate sacrifice? And that's a big question. And I'm hoping that with this pledge that we have, which is actually based on the International Peace Pledge, but edited for our specific needs here in Chicago, I'm hoping that this can be the beginning of vindicating that ultimate sacrifice made by King. So we're gonna do this pledge like all pledges. I'm gonna say a line and then you repeat after me. I pledge to put personal peace as my primary goal each day. And to interact with the world and those around me in a way that best serves my peacefulness. I pledge to take responsibilities for my actions and not use violence to solve my problems. I understand that every life has a value that cannot be measured in material terms. I pledge to choose my words and actions so that the best, most likely outcome for me is inner peace. I pledge to lead by example rather than lecture. I am a person of action, not words. My positive actions make a difference, and with each success, I become the change I wish to see in the world. I pledge to lead by example. All right. I pledge to do something positive in and for my community every day. My pledge for peace is neither a vow of silence nor an excuse to give up when my values are challenged. I will continue to take a stand for the things that matter to me, but in a peaceful and nonviolent way. If I break my pledge, I will forgive myself. I will also forgive those who hurt me. Practice makes perfect. There's a line at the bottom for a signature and a date. Feel free to sign your card and keep it with you wherever you go as a reminder of living a nonviolent life in much the same way Dr. King dedicated his life. Brother Wimbush was a little off because I'm not closing us out. Actually, Father Mike is gonna come up and say some closing remarks for us, and then we're gonna have a happy birthday song honoring Dr. King. Thank you.
Sometimes when I reflect on my life, I can't believe just how blessed I am. This plain old simple person that I am. Blessed in so many ways. You know, the Monday after Thanksgiving when that young man was murdered on our steps and another man permanently disabled, the 500 people who were in this church turned around in fear to get away from the shooting, and they pushed up against what had been a marble pulpit here, and managed somehow, the force of that size of a crowd, pushed it over, it shattered to the ground. So this is our old pulpit that's here in the meantime. My brothers and sisters, we are preaching and praying that pulpit back to this spot, and tonight has been a very significant step in that process. I thank each and every one of you for being here, and for leaving here with hope, and for bringing that message to other people. I want to share a thought with you. There's so many actions that we have to partake in, enthusiastically, joyfully. This year, 2013, here at St. Columbanus, we have declared it as a year of peacemaking. So we're not just talking about peace, we're not just praying about peace, but we are doing peace. We are bringing peace. We are creating peace. It starts with us inside. It starts with our community of faith, and then it extends to our neighborhood, the city, and the world. And I had a thought. Maybe one of those things, as I got to know last week this wonderful place called the Freedom Center that I hope to visit very often in the future. And I got to know Marissa and Jonathan, and only known them for a week, but I feel like that's my sister and that's my brother. Praise God. I had a thought as they were talking about that intersection of Emmett Till Road and Martin Luther King Drive. There's a lot of things we have to do, and this might not be one of the most important ones, but notice, if you will, we Catholics like statues, right? We get accused falsely of worshiping statues as if they were false gods, and we don't do that as Catholics, so quit saying that about us, all right? But I'm thinking, and I'm just wondering, this might not be the most significant thing we could do, but is there a way? Just think about it. I'm looking at Darlene Tribute, because if anybody could pull this off, it would be her. We could get a little piece of the corner of that lot from that gas station and commission an artist to put up a statue at the corner of Dr. Martin Luther King Drive and Emmett Till Road of the two of them together. Maybe that would be one of the thousands of things that comes out of what happened tonight. Because everybody's going to leave, and everybody's going to do new and creative actions. My brothers and sisters, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You know, on that day the shooting took place, this church was an absolute mess. It was an absolute disaster. We couldn't touch it until 6 p.m. The shooting happened just after noon. And so I had, praise God, I had about 15 of my church members here with me. We were praying and talking about it, crying and trying to figure things out. And then we started to clean up. And that just made us feel better, to put it back in its place. But you know what? We're never going to be quite the same again, even if it looks exactly the way that it looked before. We've been changed by that evil act. We have been changed by the positive spiritual energy that is now surrounding this community. All of the people tonight who said they're not going to take it anymore with the violence. Everybody here tonight who says they want peace, we are achieving that. We are doing that. It has already begun with us and is continuing. This indeed has been a true gift, and I thank each and every one of you for bringing more peace to this very spot, more peace to our city tonight. Hang on to your hats, because the best is yet to come.